Today, I'll be chopping very slowly so that you can chop along with me. Think of it as an exercise video or an ASMR video, but with knives. For this exercise, you'll need a cutting board and you want to stabilize it with a piece of shelf lining or a damp paper towel, basically anything that will prevent it from sliding around. You'll also need a chef's knife and some ball that fits your hand comfortably. We'll use it to learn how to do a good claw grip. See, this is a claw grip. Luckily, kitchens are full of balls like lemons, limes, and onions. The vegetable we're going to chop are zucchini, and this choice is very intentional. Zucchini are soft, so they're easy to cut, and they don't slide around on the board. They are also delicious. So when we're done chopping them, we'll roast them and mix them with some pasta for a lovely meal. You'll need about 5 zucchini for this exercise. All right, let's get started. Move most of your zucchini off your board and leave just one so that your board is not too crowded. Now the first thing we're going to learn is how to hold our chef's knife. We hold it with what's called a pinch grip. You see, we pinch right here in the back of the blade with our second finger and our thumb. You pinch right here. And then your third, fourth, and fifth fingers wrap around the handle, just like this. Here is one side, and here is the other side. This gives you much more control of the place where all the action happens, which is right here in the back of the knife. We are not going to chop with the front or the middle. We're going to chop with the back. All right, so let's trim our zucchini. And now you want to cut them into comfortable lengths. We never want to work with a very long vegetable because that makes our life very difficult. It's hard to draw a straight line through a long vegetable. So we are going to cut all of them into roughly 3 to 4 inch lengths. This one is not very long, so I'll cut it in half. But this one is actually somewhat chubby, so I'll cut this one into 3 pieces. All right, and let's do that with all of our zucchini, because regardless of how you want to chop them, whether you want to slice them or dice them, you do need them in these comfortable lengths. And the last one. Now, let's grab one of these little chubby pieces of zucchini, and we need to stabilize it. Doesn't matter how you plan to cut it, you want a flat side on this zucchini because otherwise it rolls around, making your life very uncomfortable. All right, so I'm gonna stabilize it like this from 2 sides. Thumb here, third finger here, second finger on top, so that it's not going anywhere. And I'm going to cut off one side of this zucchini. Okay, and then I'll cut the rest of it into planks. Same thing, we try to stabilize it from the top. Now we don't need these fingers on the sides anymore because we have a flat surface, and this flat surface prevents our zucchini from rolling around. So we'll cut it into boards, something like this. If this gets tall and unstable, we'll lean it down and cut it into more boards. Okay, now we're going to get one little flat piece of zucchini. It's best to learn to chop on very low flat pieces. And we're gonna grab our knife with that pinch grip, right? We're pinching it right here. Great. Okay, we are not going to worry about claw grip yet. The nice thing about zucchini is that it sticks to the board and doesn't go anywhere. So we're gonna remove our left hand completely. And we're just going to learn the knife motion. The knife does not leave the board completely after each cut. The front of the knife stays attached on the cutting board, and only the back of the knife lifts. It looks like this. All right. Here's what it looks like with the zucchini. Again, I'm not using my left hand, it's completely out of the way. I'm not worried about size of pieces for now. I just want to learn this motion. Oh, my zucchini moved a little. If you want, you can hold down your zucchini a little bit on the edge, way away from the knife. So you're pushing the knife away from you. Once you get close, for now we're gonna set this aside and grab another piece. So my knife starts roughly at this part, middle of the blade. And then I push the knife away from myself. And it's very important for the knife to land fully and then to go away from me. Otherwise our zucchini won't separate. See, if I do this, I get these little cuts on my zucchini, but they're still attached. So I want to make sure that I follow all the way through. All the way through. So I'm pushing my knife away, and then my wrist comes up. I'm pushing my knife away, and then my wrist comes up. All right, so that's the circle that the knife makes. And as you might have noticed, without the use of the claw grip, it is very difficult to control the size of the pieces. Some end up thinner and some end up thicker, and the knife goes wherever it wants to go. So now we'll learn to use the claw grip so that we can control where our knife goes. Let's grab our ball and learn how to do a claw grip. So I'm using a lemon because I found a lemon today that fits my hand just right. Okay, so when I'm holding this ball, my knuckles are up. You see these knuckles? Yeah. And my wrist is below the knuckles. You don't want to stick your wrist up because that's going to be very uncomfortable. So lower that wrist and wrap yourself completely around that ball. And note how my elbow is going to stick out. That can be a little bit uncomfortable. See, try that. So to make that more comfortable, so I'm going to rotate my hip slightly into the cutting board, which will rotate my whole arm. All right. So now I'm in this position, and imagine that this hand is my knife. You can try this with your hand first because it's not nearly as scary as the knife. So the knife will be attached to my claw grip. And it's not just attached anywhere. It is attached into very particular points. The second finger and the third finger, the first knuckles after the nails. So here are my fingernails and it's the first knuckles. I'm gonna drop this lemon so that it's easier for you to see that spot. It is this knuckle right here. It's not the top knuckle, it's the lower knuckle. the very first knuckle. If this knuckle is attached to the knife, here's the knife, then the fingertips can't really go under the knife. It protects my fingertips. That's why it's called a claw grip, because it looks like tiger's claw. Here it is. All right. So let's try to get into this position with a knife and see how it goes. Imagine that we still have that lemon in there underneath your hand. Whenever your hand starts doing things like this, getting all squished, or like that, or like that, or like that, just grab that lemon back and remind yourself what a round hand feels like. All right. So here it is. Here's my claw grip. Here's my pinch grip on the knife. And here it is together. So my knife is attached right here, right on those two knuckles. Okay. So we're gonna grab a piece of zucchini. It can't just go anywhere at once. It has to go where this claw grip hand tells it to go. So the easiest size to learn to do it first is very, very small. Basically, stay in the same place with your claw grip and chop. And this way, you will get very thin pieces of zucchini, but you will get comfortable with being in one place and having that contact between your claw grip and your knife. Don't worry about the pieces, what size you're getting. Any size is good at this point. All right, so here they are. They come out very, very finely. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing but slower. So here we go. Knife goes away from me, knife comes back. Knife goes away from me, knife comes back. Away and back, away and back, away and back. And here are the pieces. They're very small. Okay. Now the question is, what do you do if you want bigger pieces? Here we'll get another piece of zucchini and we'll try to make our pieces a little bit bigger. To do that, this claw grip hand has to make little tiny jumps back. So as the knife hand goes back and forth, away and back, after each slice, the left hand makes a tiny little hop, tiny little hop. And because the knife hand is attached to it, the knife hand will follow. So we push the knife away, and then we make a tiny hop, and away, and a tiny hop, and away, and a tiny hop. And as you see, we're getting slightly bigger pieces now. They're not paper thin anymore. They're cardboard thin. All right, so if you want even bigger pieces, then you make even bigger hops. The bigger this hops, the bigger the pieces. Let's grab another piece of zucchini. So when you're making these hops in the beginning, you pause your knife hand for the hop. So I push the hand away, and then I hop. And I push the hand away, and then I hop. But as you learn and become more comfortable, you can do this at the same time. You can push the knife away and make the hops without needing to stop. So here we go, we're getting even bigger pieces. Let's see if we can make them even bigger. So cut, hop, cut, hop, cut. hop, cut, hop, cut, hop. See, now they're really big. All right. So I'm gonna use a pastry scraper to pick up all the zucchini, move them to my baking sheet. I want to show you that the knife should never shove anything to the right or to the left. That's very bad for your knife and your cutting board, and it doesn't really help you chop. Say I am going along chopping my zucchini. There is no need to shove the zucchini to the right. You don't need to do that. They'll eventually fall off your knife. So keep on chopping. You don't need to move. You don't need to chop and move and chop and move. All right? The only motion knife can make is away and back, away and back. Never side to side. Okay. Now what do you do with all the zucchini that stick to your knife? Most of the time, nothing. Because the new zucchini will push the old zucchini off. Here, I'll rotate my zucchini so that you can see. See, as I'm chopping, the new zucchini will push the old zucchini off. Now, what if the zucchini start falling to the wrong place? Instead of falling this way to the pile of finished zucchini, what if they fall the other way? So let's try that. So here we go, we're chopping along. We accumulated some zucchini and look what happened. They fell onto my uncut zucchini. In that case, you might need to stop and clean off your knife and keep on going. You can actually reduce how much that happens with a very, very slight tilt of your knife. So when I'm chopping, I am not perfectly 90 degrees to the cutting board. I'm just slightly off, but very, very little. I'm exaggerating this now. It is a much smaller tilt, like this. And this allows my zucchini to fall to the finished area instead of to the unfinished area. All right. So what do you do in the end? You have such a little piece of zucchini, right? We haven't talked about the end yet. In the end, you collect your whole claw grip into one small point. All my 3 fingers, thumb, second, and third, collect into one point, and I go very slowly. So I'm still using the claw grip, but now it's balanced only on one finger, my index finger. This is my connection to the knife. All right. And in the end, you might just leave it completely alone or tilt it and make another cut. You never want to work with very skinny, very tall pieces. So before we move on to different sizes and dice, let's just hang around here for a little bit and chop our zucchini. We'll try to go very slowly and remember all the things we learned so far. All right, so we're pushing the knife away, 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 away. Periodically check that all those zucchini pieces are indeed separating, that none of them are stuck together. If you find some that are stuck, that means that you need to make sure your knife is landing completely, makes full contact with the cutting board, and then it's going away from you. Landing completely and then going away from you. All right, so let's keep going like that, nice and slow, very little pieces so that you don't have to move much. Oops, it's a lawnmower. Other things we want to check up on is our claw grip. Let's check if your thumb is tucked in behind the other fingers. Is it out here, way tucked in, or is it doing this? Because if it's doing this, you might cut yourself. So make sure it's bent, tucked in, hiding behind. All right, here we go. Keep that thumb tucked in. Now let's check if the other fingers are tucked in. Is the fourth finger doing this? That's not good. Or is the pinky straightening out? That's not good. That can get under your knife. Keep them all tucked in. And we want to make sure we're not doing some sort of collapsed claw grip. For some reason, when I show people claw grip, they sometimes like to completely collapse and try to hold the vegetable with their knuckles. That is not comfortable. The knuckles are not touching the vegetable. The fingertips are touching the vegetable. Only the fingertips. The knuckles are touching the knife. Now let's check that our knuckles on top are still visible, that they didn't get all flattened out. How are those knuckles doing? The knuckles up? Good. And one more thing to check up on. You want to make sure that when you're doing the claw grip, the only point of connection between your knife and your hand are the knuckles. A very common mistake is to attach this entire flat part of your finger to the knife. Looks like that. Now, if it looks, oh gosh, can you see that? If it looks like that, that's so much friction. Your knife is stuck. It can't move. It's very hard to move this knife. You want to tilt your hand back enough so that only the knuckles touch. Only the knuckles, not the whole flat part of your hand. Just like this. To get us ready for doing dice, let's try slightly bigger pieces. So you push the knife away, you make a little hop. You push the knife away, you make a little hop. Knife away, hop. Knife away, hop. Knife away, hop. Knife away, hop. All right. There we go. Nice chunky pieces. When you move things off your knife, go from top to bottom. Don't go side to side so that you don't cut yourself. To dice a zucchini, in other words, to cut it into cubes, we start the same way we have already done. Stabilize your chunk of zucchini with your thumb, third and second fingers and cut off one side. And the size that you cut off determines how big of a dice you're gonna get. So if I want roughly 1/3 of an inch dice, I will cut off a chunk that's about 1/3 of an inch this way. Okay. And then I need to cut my zucchini into boards that are 1/3 of an inch. All right. Here they are. Let's lay them all down flat on our cutting board and cut them into sticks that are still 1/3 of an inch. So here's my claw grip. There's no need for this thumb and third finger from the sides because now that the zucchini are flat, they will not move. All right. So here we go. Here's my claw grip. Here's my pinch grip. And I'm gonna push away, and make French fry pieces. They should be shaped like sticks of French fries, something like this. And we are aiming for this size and this size to be the same. Okay, now we turn them around and make little piles. It is, of course, very tempting to make one big pile, but then everything will fall apart. And instead of making us faster, it'll make us slower. So let's make 2 little piles, just like that. Okay. And pinch grip, remember that? Yeah. Claw grip. Okay. And now the claw grip will be a little bit more difficult because instead of holding only one piece of zucchini, you'll be dealing with a whole bunch of them. Look, whole pile. And sometimes what happens is this: as you move your claw grip, you move the top piece, and that's not very good. So there are 2 ways to handle that. Don't make your piles too large, and also don't grab them for dear life. Just hover above them with your claw grip and make little hops. Try those little hops without a knife. If you can't do them without a knife, with a knife things get only harder. So little tiny hops. There we go. Okay, little tiny hops. Now we're going to do that with a knife. We're going to push the knife away and come back. Push the knife away and come back. 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 Now this is a pretty big dice, and in order for this to work, the tip of my knife, when it comes here, it actually moves a tiny bit over. All right. Cut your zucchini into boards. Cut those boards into French fries. Here we go. They all need to be flat side down. And I want to show you what happens to the tip of the knife when you're working with such big pieces. So I'm cutting through them, pushing the knife away. When I come back, the tip of my knife right here will make a tiny little hop. And how big of a hop it's going to make will depend on how much my claw grip hand moves. So here I am here, and now since my claw grip hand will move, the tip has moved too. It's a very small motion. All right. So my knife leaves the cutting board right here in the front, but by maybe a millimeter. Tiny, tiny bit. Very small. Check that your thumb is tucked in. Check that your 4th finger is tucked in. Check that you still have contact with the knife. It is very common to see people do a claw grip right here and chop right there. And that's cool and all, but now you can't rely on the claw grip to control the size of pieces. Now you need your eyes. And if you want to rely on your eyes to control the size of your pieces, you will be quite slow. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with being slow. A claw grip out here is better than no claw grip at all, because at least you won't cut off your fingertips, right? Once all your zucchini are chopped, put them on a large baking sheet. They don't need to be in a single layer as long as the pile is not too deep. Sprinkle them with salt. and drizzle with lots of olive oil. Mix thoroughly with your hands and spread out evenly on the baking sheet. Place in the middle of a 400-degree oven and cook until they shrink and brown. The corners usually brown first. Once that happens, you might want to stir your zucchini to help them brown evenly. Your total cooking time can be anywhere between 40 and 80 minutes, depending on how big your zucchini pieces are, how much zucchini you chopped, your baking sheet, your oven, and whether or not you're using the convection fan. Once your zucchini are nicely browned, give them a splash of something acidic. Today I'm using balsamic vinegar, but lemon juice or pomegranate molasses are also great. Taste and adjust for salt and mix with some buttered noodles and Parmesan cheese. What did you think of this format? Did you actually chop some zucchini or did you have a nice nap? My full knife skills playlist is linked in the description below, and if there is anything I can do to help you get better at chopping, let me know in the comments.